How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another supporters club. It's been somewhat of a big week for Arsenal Football Club. We're coming off of a big win this weekend without even playing. Tottenham and United dropping points again for the second game week in a row. And Josh Kroenke has come out to talk, as well as Vinai holding a fans forum. So there's a lot to discuss there. You know what supporters club is about. You know how I feel about the ownership. You've heard enough, so I've brought some guests with me. Jordan, somewhat of a regular now. You good?
Yes, man, I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Still, Chris Hudson, legend.
All right, mate.
Come on, and a first-time appearance for Sheroy. Sheroy is someone who is a valued contributor to the Twitter Spaces. There is a call for AFTV to include more fans, and that's something that I agree with and I want to do. And you've talked well on Twitter Spaces, and you love Arsenal Football Club. So welcome to Sheroy.
Thank you very much. I cannot explain how privileged I feel to be here with you guys. Watching you day in, day out and being on set is somewhat surreal, but really appreciate it.
Listen, no, all we are is Arsenal fans. Some might have some more subscribers. That doesn't really matter to me. We're all Arsenal fans and all of our opinions really matter. And it's just about uniting us, really. So like I said, big win for us this weekend without even playing. Josh has come out. There's a big win for the Cronkes over in LA with the Superbowl. But he's come out to talk. He's come out to put any fears to bed with Arsenal fans. I'm not sure he's done that. I think we've all seen bits of the interview. We've all watched bits of the interview. But Sheroy, let's start with you as the new face. What's your general feeling off of that Josh Kroenke segment?
The thing that struck me initially was within 20 seconds of that interaction with the person that was interviewing him, you could see that they go way back. They were talking about their time at NYU together. It was very friendly and amicable. And at that point, I just thought, look, this isn't going to be credible. This is going to be a propaganda video.
Yeah.
If you want to elicit difficult answers to difficult questions, you do not get a friend to ask those questions. It would be like, me trying to get something difficult out of James and asking Cecil to interview him. They're clearly boys. It's not necessarily going to happen. So I found that quite problematic. And again, look, in terms of the interview itself, I mean, the guy that was interviewing him said, "Oh man, you took me to Chelsea versus Arsenal."
Yeah.
Initially, and instead of talking about FIFA, no word of a lie, this guy talks about FIBA. FIBA is, from my understanding, an international basketball federation.
I don't know whether he's joking or whether he was serious. I couldn't.
I haven't a clue, and no one's calling him out. And at that point, I think, well, how much am I really going to learn from this interview, right? So sadly, when I started that interview, I wasn't in the best mood because of the way it kicked off.
Yeah.
But then a lot of the stuff that came out in terms of Josh's rhetoric is stuff that I've heard before. In terms of the positives with Josh Kroenke, he's more relatable than Stan, and he's a good orator. But for me, that is where it stops, because actions speak louder than words, and the words that have come out of his mouth, not just with this interview, but the previous interview he's done, don't necessarily tally up with what they've done throughout their period of ownership, even if you start at 2018 when they had full ownership.
Yeah, 2018, 2011 or 2007, wherever we started from, they're in for criticism. And you mentioned the start of the interview and how it went in, and it seemed like a very friendly conversation, and that's not necessarily what will get the answers us Arsenal fans want. Chris, you've watched the interview as well. Give us your initial perspective around it.
Well, I'm coming from a different... I don't want to go through the whole Kroenke ownership where I'm criticising them all the time. So I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I'm bored of it, and you've been saying it years before me. So,
so the fact is, the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah.
If they don't put up this summer, then you got to hold your hand up. But I think they will. I'm a little bit more optimistic.
Do you think Josh come across well in the interview?
Yeah. I do. Sorry, but I do.
Yeah, no, you don't have to apologise. Listen, I actually get it. I actually agree that he speaks very well. You mentioned it.
I just think he can't. I just think now he can't sort of bullshit people anymore, because it's there to be seen, isn't it? It's there to be seen. And this summer, if we get top four, that's another. He's going to have to put his hand in his pocket. He did last summer, and I think he might do it again this summer. Well, not might. I think he will.
Well, they have to, otherwise this January doesn't make any sense.
So I'm going to give him the benefit. I might be stupid, but I can't go through the whole of my Arsenal supporting life criticising the Kroenkes.
Yeah. You want to believe, innit? You want to hope.
That's me personally.
But touching on that in terms of you saying that you can't bullshit people anymore, yeah? I was looking at the comments on this video, this Kroenke interview, right? And I screenshotted them because of the reaction they got from me, all right? I'm just going to read a few of them out.
Yeah, all right.
And this is an interview that's designed to have exactly this effect. The top comments on this now are...
Well, let me just stop you there. I haven't pre-planned this with Sheroy because I know a lot of people might think Turkish set this up. Listen, I've just met Sheroy 5 minutes before we went live.
Earlier on, people. This is all set up. I saw them planning it earlier on.
I'm just glad there's someone there.
I haven't met him before, but these are the comments, yeah? As an Arsenal fan, my confidence in our ownership is steadily growing thanks to Josh. I'd love to sit down and talk with him. He seems like an understanding guy. Seems like a very likeable person. This is the second comment now. I've had enough of Stan, but I'm willing to give Josh a chance. Seems like he knows enough about sports to know what works and what doesn't with a young team and a young coach. Third comment, much respect to Josh Kroenke. As an Arsenal fan, I like the detail and the focused vision he communicates with. Does that not sound like a successful PR exercise?
Yeah.
Of course.
When you see those comments, right? So when you say you can't bullshit people anymore, I think you can. And I think he thinks he can.
But the thing is, me personally, I'm going to think the best of him.
You're at the end of your tether with it all, and you're just hoping that.
I'm going to go the other way now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to. But the thing is, if you want him interviewed by someone who ain't up his backside, so to speak, perhaps Arsenal Fan TV could interview him. How about that?
Oh, listen, Josh, if you're somehow watching this, please talk to me, my guy. Please talk to me. No pre-planned questions and all that. Just raw passion, emotion.
I mean, that'd be wonderful. Well, you don't know it until you ask. You don't know, do you?
True, we will. We'll test the waters with that. Jordan, Sheroy mentioned how Josh Kroenke is a lot more relatable than Stan Kroenke is, and I agree. But is that kind of a quick win? Because Stan Kroenke never spoke. We don't really know his character. We don't really know much about him and his thoughts about Arsenal Football Club. So is it an easy win that they now put Josh as the face of it all in 2019? Be excited, younger guy, fresher approach, good wordplay. Is that credit to Josh, or is it just how far the standards fell with Stan that we're looking at Josh as maybe a shining light in this situation?
The latter. The bar has been low. So if you can give the fan base someone who's a bit younger, a very good speaker, and seemingly understands what the fan base want, then yeah, you're onto a winner there. But it's a low bar. It couldn't get any worse. Yeah. We never heard from Stan. When he did speak, I didn't understand what he was saying, and he just feels a little bit out of touch. So let me give my son, who's younger than me, knows the fan base. The thing for me I took from the interview was the timing. Why now? Whenever things happen in life, very rarely things happen in life just out of the blue. More times things are planned for a reason. So I don't know what the reason is, but my first thought was, why now? And I can only speculate that it's because they want to try and maybe butter up the fan base ahead of a potential missing out on fourth, and then justifying that somehow by keeping Arteta for the next season. I don't know, I'm guessing here. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit as well. But also, Sheroy said, it's a little bit of a PR exercise I took from it as well, because I'm thinking to myself, this is a bit too polished. This is a bit too clean cut. There were no takeaways from me from this interview. I don't know. I didn't leave it thinking anything that I didn't know already from the.
Well, I'll tell you why he could be battling everyone up. The increase in season ticket prices.
Or that.
Yeah,
or could be that. Could be that.
There was a lot of talk about the impact that COVID had upon revenue and how the structure of the Premier League is very different to America, and Arsenal Football Club lost a massive amount of revenue because of COVID. I would not be surprised, Chris.
Well, it is going up. Is it 4%?
Yeah,
it's going up 4%. And
so you've answered it, yeah?
And I think when you do the maths, 4% across the season ticket holders works out to about 5 million extra income for Arsenal. And you ask yourself, surely it's time to start putting fans first. We was already paying some of the highest for a long time, and some of the highest ticket prices
Unfortunately, the pandemic has really hit Arsenal badly on the finance. I mean, you do have to understand. I know it's hit the whole planet. It doesn't matter what business. You've all suffered from the pandemic.
Do you know what I see,
Chris? They
Chris?
have been hit hard.
100%. The pandemic has affected everyone, from businesses to people, us included. But if we was in a better position heading into the pandemic, which falls onto Cronkite, I mean, we was at a Euro, we was at a Champions League, our wage structure was, abysmal. We could only loan players in January. So that also plays a part in the struggle we're in now. So I can't completely put it to COVID, even though I understand, COVID had...
Also, Arteta's really reduced the wage bill. I think he's got it down to 87 million. It was over 140.
Yeah.
And with the further departures this summer, the wage bill will drop down to 60 million. So that'll give him a little bit of breathing space this summer.
I think the point that you made earlier on, Chris, is valid as well. actions speak louder than words. So let's see in the summer what they do. We have to give them a little bit of credit in the sense that last summer they did spend. I mean, your point has always been you should have gone a little bit more and got the extra 2 players we needed. I agree. But you're never going to get everyone you want in one window. They got 6 players in, and 5 and 6 have worked out quite well. If this summer comes around, whether we've got Champions League football or not, and they don't go again, then why are we paying more money? I get the pandemic and business get hit quite hard, but we can take the increase in ticket revenue, and I think we don't mind paying a lot of money for our tickets. Give us some players, give us some hope of a title or a title push, and we'll pay the money. We've proven we will pay the money.
Even out of top 4, we pay the money.
Exactly. The frustration is we're paying the money, but what are we getting back?
And they're spending a lot of money on the ground this summer.
Yep.
Yeah, but again, with all of this, contextualizing it, look at what they did in all of those windows and for all of those years before the European Super League furor, right? Before it was on front page news, before there were protests outside the ground, they did not treat Arsenal fans with the same, alleged respect before that as they did after that. And I think that was a massive wake up call for them, which is why you've now got one window where we have spent 150 million. Going back to saying that Turkish wanted 2 more players in that window, admittedly he did, but I personally think that Turkish would have much rather we addressed all of those issues sporadically over the last 5 to 10 years, because then we wouldn't have been left with the gaps in the squad that we have to address wholesale, right? And that lack of foresight and that lack of accountability is a historic problem, and it isn't something that the Kronkes can shy away from. And the only change has been the Super League. That's literally been the only change. But you get the window after the Super League, 150 mil. We got to bring 6 man in now, because we finished 8th twice. And these fans are not having it. There's protests outside the stadium. Admittedly, those protests died down, but they felt the heat, bro.
But equally, whilst I agree with you, I think at some point we've got to draw a line under the failings of the past and address what's happening now. I agree, we're in the situation we're in now because of poor planning for the last 5, 10 years.
Not just bad recruitment.
All of it's been poor. I think we all agree on that. But I think we have to look on, we're talking about this interview that he's done now. What do we get from the interview now? Where do we go from here from now? And what as Arsenal fans can we look forward to going forward? I think if we keep harping back to we're in the mud now because of the last 10 years of a mess, where does that get us?
I couldn't agree more, but I've only so far seen one
Accountability is
window.
important. Hold them accountable, I agree. But at some point we've got to change the narrative to, okay, what are you doing now going forward?
Because you have to start from somewhere. I mean, look at Man United.
Yeah.
To tie up loose ends, I think Sheroy would agree with me here. To tie up loose ends in this debate, I think some accountability from Josh would have gone a long way, even for me. I think that he's come across in the last 2-3 times speaking, like he just wants us, not come across, he's blatantly said it, judge us from 2018. But where's the accountability before that? I would have much preferred you say, listen, judge us for majority ownership. However, our part to play in the previous 10 years in that included some mistakes, included some lack of care. But it seems that all of that is brushed under the carpet.
It was a past, and yeah.
Whereas some accountability there would go a long way to mending a broken relationship, for me with them anyway, a very broken relationship. If you can't even
acknowledge what happened in the past,
acknowledge that you've made mistakes and what mistakes they were, then how can I believe that you're not going to do the same in 5 years? How can I not hear you explain, be excited, which happened after majority ownership? Is that going to be brushed under the carpet too because of COVID? They explained the COVID impact, and then Josh insinuated that the Super League was off the back of the impact of COVID. However, COVID stopped the world March 2020. Super League came in April 2021. That planning did not take a year. That planning goes back 5-10 years. So again, it was another lie amongst the whole, for me, PR-ish
But perhaps they surrounded themselves with people who didn't know what they were doing.
But to an extent. But what he says in terms of the Super League is he says, well, we were sort of led by the wind in that regard, and it wasn't our idea, but we sat there and thought, well, these guys are going ahead with it anyway. Would a Super League without Arsenal hurt more than a Super League with Arsenal? Now, if you're looking for a strong leader and strong leadership, you do not make decisions based upon what the majority of the people around you are doing. You sit there and you look at the people that concern you, i.e. your fan base. And if he's going to come out and say love for European football is deeper than it is for the sport that we have in the States, he should. It was immediately obvious to everyone what the problems with the Super League were and what the fan reaction would have been, right?
So let me ask you, let's say the Super League did happen and it came out afterwards that we were one of the 6 clubs that were offered to go in there and they turned it down. What would have been your reaction then?
I would have said that is the first time I've seen the Kronkes uphold values and principles and show an element of respect for the fan base, particularly if they came out and explained why they didn't go for it. If they came out and said, you know what, we actually think financially this was a good shout, and it may have secured the future of the club, but we're going to secure the future of the club this way, by investing in youth and by clearing the decks, because we think that's what the fans want. One, they could have done that, or they could have consulted the fans before they went ahead with it anyway.
And what we can't forget is...
Don't agree with that. Let me tell you why. I never think it's a good idea consulting your customers based off business decisions, especially in an industry as emotional as football. If they'd spoken to the fan base and said, fan base, what do you guys think? We would have overwhelmingly probably said, no, bad idea. But if they then counter that by saying, that's fine, but just so you know, the financial gap between those that break away and us is going to be so big, we may never, ever, ever catch those teams ever again. So just so you know, we won't go in the Super League, but don't think you're ever going to be in that top echelons of European clubs ever again.
Do you think that would have changed fans' opinions, though, if they heard that? Do you think that would have changed fans' opinions? Because you're then giving them the opportunity to make a well-informed decision about what they're putting their money towards week in, week out, right? And that's the level of dignity that I expect a fan base to be treated with.
The thing is, you know, that Super League, it could have worked if it had been done in a different manner.
Good point.
Because it was like, we're going to break away and leave you lot behind. But if they sort of integrated it into the...
I agree with both of you, but I'm just making the point that
I don't
as
think
fans,
the Super
we're
League's
emotional.
dead, by the way.
Nor do I.
No, do I. But I'm making the point that...
I think it will come.
The fan base, it seems like it was a morally wrong thing to be involved in. I get that, and it was. It's integrity of football would be done.
But the thing is...
But financially, they make the point, this was such a massive opportunity to go to the next level. If we didn't get involved in it, and we told you afterwards, you'd be pissed. On that sense, maybe. So I'm just playing devil's advocate to put the other side
being
forward.
pedantic, I mean, our record in Europe doesn't exactly qualify us for European Super League, but that's
Tottenham were at the table,
I know, but
Right, so
they should.
We're definitely there. You know what I mean?
There's only three clubs in Britain, well, possibly four. That
I
hear that
historically.
And sorry, just final point on that as well. I'm actually not sure the fan base. I think the fan base would have first been like, yeah, morals, we couple of years down the line, when we're seeing Spurs and Chelsea and them teams, I think the fan base has been like, actually, we want to be at that party.
I think football's changed a lot in terms of fan bases as well. It's become a lot more of a worldwide commercial appeal.
If it was playing better and it was presented in a different way, more people would have gone with it. So it's the people who planned it and presented it wrongly.
I always said that if you had the Super League being a 4-tier league, where there is no, restrictions on relegation, there's no restrictions on the finances going to a particular set founders and whatnot. If you created a league where it was division based, the top league and 3 below it, where every team in European football can be a part of it without those restrictions, I would have accepted it, agreed with it, and I would have gone with it. But at the same time, there's no divine right for us to be there with this ownership. So at the same time, what you said about if they warned us saying, if we don't go into this, there's going to be a big gap between us and the big boys, I would have said to Josh Kroenke, well, since you've been in charge, the gap between us and the big boys has only grown. So how can you now sell it to us that the gap needs to be closed by this, where even in the recent interview after the Super Bowl, Josh insinuates that it was done for the sustainability of Arsenal, for our future. But what about the future of football? Because there'd be no Arsenal if there was no football, if there was no leagues, if there was no history behind it all. It literally just forgetting about the Wolves or the Sheffield Wednesdays or the Blackburns or the Leicesters. It was just a very selfish idea.
I agree.
Brought upon by what seems to be selfish people. You mentioned the top 4 and how, what did you mention about how, you said softening the blow. That's how you saw this Josh interview, potentially softening the blow of
if we don't make it top 4.
Well, Vinai yesterday was part of a fans forum, and one of the quotes coming out of there, we have got a really good chance of getting into top 4. And that's what we're fighting for. Now, that's very chalk and cheese to what Edu said at the beginning of the season. When asked about targets, he, basically said, we don't really have a target. We're just kind of going with the flow. Whereas now in February, we've got Vinai coming out to say our target is top 4.
That's a message.
First time I've heard any metric from any of this.
Right, that's exactly what I said.
For success, it's the
That's
first time. Aside from Josh.
To be fair, he's not actually, that's not a target. He's just saying...
We're fighting for it.
Yeah, that's a very easy... Anyone can say that. We are fighting for it.
But it's
We've got
more
a good chance.
specificity than we've ever got from any of them.
So if I
True.
If I add more context to it, and say he also added, I'm not a big fan of the January window. We were active in a number of conversations. Everybody is comfortable with what we have. Now, if on one hand he's saying we have a chance for top 4, that's what we're fighting for, and on another hand he's saying we're comfortable with what we have,
Then we got the players to get top 4 in his eyes.
surely that is a target in itself, because you've said you're happy with the outcome from January. You've said there's a chance for top 4 and we're going to fight for it. So surely you're saying that is the target.
I think he's saying there, based on what we have, I think we've got enough tools to get top 4 or fight for top 4. That's what I think he's saying.
But
so I don't see a contradiction. I see him saying, I don't like January, don't like the window. I think what we've got in-house is enough to fight for top 4.
But
Whether you agree with that or not is a different
But
thing.
don't you think it's like Sheroy said, it's very different to Edu's message at the start of the season, where when he was asked about a potential target, he couldn't even say top 6.
I don't think it is, because one is not giving a target, an ambition, which you can hold someone to. What Vinai's saying there is just a throwaway statement. We are fighting for top 4.
So you got who are we up
Yeah.
against?
But you said it's a message, Chris. Do you
Yeah,
mean
I
to Arteta?
think it's a message to the management, but also it'd be a fantastic test of Arteta. Let's face it, our forward line's rubbish. No, it is. Like is that, I know everyone he does a lot of running, but there's no
doesn't
finish.
score, yeah.
And Nketiah's not good enough. So you're down to Martinelli, and it's down to our Arteta to get the best out of what we've got up front. Can you be a little bit clever? Can you play Smith Rowe up front as a false 9? There's so many things. So it's a good test of Arteta, but you've got to think, who are we up against? So we're up against Tottenham, who've got better forwards than us, but the rest of the team's awful.
Yeah, more experienced manager.
West Ham, they're the ones who worry me, because they've got an excellent manager. They've got Bowen and
decent
Antonio. I
team,
do
yeah.
like them, but what might do them in is fixture congestion. I'm praying they stay
They're
in
still in Europe, yeah.
And
they
I
might
want
get
them
stretched.
to go far in the cup.
Yeah.
And who else?
United.
Man United. Well, Man United are Arsenal circa under Unai Emery. The same stink, the same horrible atmosphere. But they have got Ronaldo who can win a game like that.
So when you put it like that, who of the 4 do you think is the
West
favourite?
Ham.
Favourite West
I
Ham.
think
you?
you've got to put Wolves in
Oh,
there. I think it's a
worry.
disrespect
Yeah.
to not mention Wolves.
Yeah.
to
Wolves,
be
if they
honest.
come to the Emirates and turn us over, possibly. They've got a fantastic back 4.
Wolves ain't getting 4th.
And they've got a good
they're in there.
manager.
They're in the
there.
discussion now, right? They're in the discussion now.
But
Yeah.
West Ham worry me, but the fixtures, I think that could drag them down. So as long as we don't do anything stupid, we could get it. I think we got a 60-40 chance there.
Yeah, Sheroy, what do you
high.
make of the...
That statement.
Yeah.
Look, at the beginning of the season, when Edu was squarely asked, he did not want to give us any specificity. Now, I get that that's perhaps clever management, because if it doesn't work out, people will go, ha, you said we were going to get 6th or you were going to get 4th. So he bottled it in that sense, but I get why he did it. Then Josh, in that interview a couple of days ago, the only sort of metric for success that he sort of offered was, we had the Invincibles, we want to get there again. With no tangible sort of mechanism to ascertain exactly how you're going to get there, right? So he doesn't really give you the specificity that you want either. What Vinai has done there by saying, we believe that we've got what we need for top 4, I think he has said, Arteta may well have been able to bring a player or two in if he wanted a player. He didn't necessarily want that player. It's exactly what Arteta said, in fact. I could have brought in players, but it would have been for the wrong reasons, so I chose not to. And they have a firm belief that they are going to really push for top 4, which is fair enough. And in fact, not that I give Vinai too much credit generally, but that's probably, out of all 3 people, that's the bravest I've seen in terms of giving someone something to hold on to. Because Vinai knows full well that if it doesn't work out, at the next meeting with this lot, they're going to say, well, bruv, you said we had everything that we needed.
Comfortable.
Yeah, we're comfortable. We didn't bring anyone in January. You know what I mean?
The thing is,
what's going on here?
we can't criticise. In the past, we've criticised Arsenal for buying like panic buys.
Yeah.
So for once, they've used their brain and haven't.
But so they say. That
We don't know who they've gone
we
for.
won't know until May, and then come summer whether they've actually used their brain or they've used their wallet
it's
again and tried to save.
It's a gamble. So you either say they're stupid or brave, and we won't know till May.
But it could go either way, both sides. You could not spend, and then it works out that your tight-knit squad gets you top 4, or you could not spend and finish 6th. But then you could spend, as we have in the past in January, and not get top 4, or you could spend and get 4th. So I'm not so sure it's necessarily a binary thing. I wouldn't use it as a metric of if we don't get top 4, the reason is because we didn't buy a striker.
It's not.
I don't think it's as simple as that.
It's not as binary, but even under Arsene Wenger finishing top 4 all of those years, if I asked you, anytime there's been a light at the end of the tunnel, whether that's we're in top 4 and we can challenge for the league, that season against Leicester, or whether we're in top 6 and we want to get to top 4, or whether we're talking now where top 4's up for grabs, has this ownership ever, in your opinion, taken the necessary risk to get over the line? Because you're right, you might spend and fail, but how often has Arsenal spent and failed, aside from, let's say, Pepe, how often which in isolation, one man is not going to change the fortunes of Arsenal Football Club. Chelsea make mistake after mistake, they sort it out. Man City, Liverpool, United, they do the same thing. Is there an example where Kroenke, in this sort of a situation, has tried that method of spend to get to where we need to?
No. And on balance of probability, you'd probably say you're increasing your chances of getting fourth if you'd have gone and got a striker. So I accept that. But I wouldn't say if we sit here come end of May and we finish 5th or 6th and we haven't had a striker, that would be the key reason.
Would that be
I think
failure,
we've got enough.
If we got in the Europa League, would you classify that as failure? Because I wouldn't, actually.
Sorry. Beginning of the season, I said top 6.
No, we all did.
I said a challenge for top 4 would probably be the best I can hope for from Arsenal. But that was me looking at Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea and United and saying these 4 are going to be top 4. And if there's a chance for top 4, one of these teams have to be underperforming badly, which they are, United. Now, I think Sheroy, just before the stream, you mentioned about goalposts moving and how some fans will look at that and look upon it negatively and say to me, but at the beginning of the season, you said a challenge for top 4 will be enough. But I did say that, hands up, I did say that. But in January, when I look at Tottenham, I look at United and I look at West Ham and Wolves, surely a challenge for top 4 from that position isn't the target. Surely top 4 needs to be the target.
What does an elite boxer do when his game plan is to take a fight 12 rounds, but in the 6th round, he sees the opening for the knockout? He goes for the knockout.
Takes the risk.
And he gets his opponent out of the ring. And if we're going to be going on like we're one of the big 6 clubs, which of course we are, we need to take that opportunity. It's that simple. I know we say this very often, but United are sitting in 4th right now. We've got 3 games in hand on them.
3.
Right? Yeah, 3.
And if we're confident enough, and if we've got Vinai coming out and saying that we should be able to get top 4, all I hark back to is that season Leicester won the league. Right, and I think, man, we had so many of the ingredients that we perhaps needed to win, but we left ourselves short because of a lack of foresight. Which is why, looking at this January window, I think, going back to your point, had we given ourselves the best shot of securing top 4, knowing that chance creation and goal scoring hasn't been our forte, we would have given ourselves the best shot of going for the jugular. And I really, really hope, I'd be desperately disappointed if we don't get the top 4 because of a lack of goals. And if we don't get the top 4, personally, look, this might get clipped up and I might get cussed later, but I don't think it's going to be because we concede a lot of goals. I'm quite confident in the way that we've been playing at the back. I think if we don't get top 4, it's going to be because we don't score enough. And at that point, all the heads are going to go, you didn't bring a striker in. And it's not just Aubameyang. Laka and Eddie, we knew weren't going to be here at the end of this season last summer. That lack of foresight for me is relatively unforgivable, all right, because they weren't going to offer them new deals, or they knew that they weren't going to take those new deals. The Aubameyang situation developed to the extent they had to replace him, but what were they doing with Laka and Eddie, man? Like, if you're elite businessmen and you're KSE and you've got a bunch of franchises, these are elementary things. I'm a layperson in my room and I can see it. You guys should be able to cotton onto that very quickly.
Yes, but all people say that crept up. Rubbish. Aubameyang wasn't good enough last season.
Yeah, which kind of backs up his point that we should have been thinking
Alonso
forward
should have
already.
been ringing, yeah.
Now, you know what I'm going to say, Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, you mentioned it in the
I'm
summer.
sorry.
No, you did mention it in the summer, and even though I was against it, it makes sense to, like I put to Sheroy and you earlier, I said, if we had bought in a Tammy Abraham in the summer and sorted out Eddie to another club or Lacazette to another club, we would have been in January overseeing Oba's departure with a striker in place that, okay, Roma and Italy is not Arsenal in the Premier League, but you'd hope he'd be in a position where he's scoring goals.
Him and Martinelli would have made a wonderful partnership. I really do.
Lack of foresight again, lack of proactivity again.
So we're chatting about the board and reacting still to the interview. Can I ask you two gentlemen, if Arsenal were to miss out on top 4 this year, what will be your reaction in regards to not Arteta, but the board? Let's say they finish 6th, 4 points off 4th.
What I would want to know then is, what were the options presented to Arteta in terms of a striker in January, and what was his rationale for saying no? If there was someone who gave us something different and they fit the mould, Why didn't you move for them? If it was Arteta's decision saying, look, I know you're going to get me these players, but trust me, I'm cool, I'm all right, then there is an element of accountability there. And at that point, maybe the board will be able to say, look, we did kind of give you something that you said you didn't need. But if it's because the board didn't really back Arteta in identifying the targets that he wanted, fair enough, they may have gone for Vlahovic. I don't believe half of these men that come out with this stuff anyway, but even if we did, cool. Again, if it's the board making these decisions as to targets in conjunction with Arteta, they didn't really identify anyone else that was feasible. They put all their eggs in one basket. So I need a bit more information about what the dynamic was in January, what those conversations were. But that transparency as a fan, look, it's wishful thinking. You're never going to get that, brother. So I'm never really going to know who to blame in that situation. And at that point, for me, man, it's top down. Buck starts at the top in every organisation, in society, in football. That's the way I look at things.
How hard do you think they went in for the player went for Juventus?
I really don't believe much of it, Chris.
You think they went in hard for him?
I know they did. I know Turkish is not having any of it at all. Yeah. But I know they did go in for him. Whether they went in for him, as I'm told, they went in for him. They really wanted him. They were just gazumped. He wasn't convinced by the Arsenal project. Juventus came with a good offer. Juventus are a massive club. Stay in the same league, bang goals at a big club like Juventus. That was more attractive to him.
But the Fiorentina,
we just got gazumped. But I'm told I don't often get into the whole transfer chat because there's a lot of chat on the web. Because Arsenal are very good for clicking.
We was offered Icardi, wasn't we, from PSG?
Yeah, it's come out recently. Yeah,
I
wouldn't have taken him.
I do understand.
So
why
I wouldn't have taken him.
Yeah,
you would have.
No.
Yeah, no. I
don't want that sort of player for Arsenal.
Correct, and I completely agree with the rationale for Arteta.
Young, hungry striker. I want a young, hungry squad. That's what he's trying to build.
And this is why I've got, again, a little bit of sympathy with the club that you're talking about. Where was the backup? Where was the plan B? In regards to the last 2 or 3 years, I'm with you guys 100%. In regards to January, strikers are the hardest people to sign.
Yep.
They are, and January makes it even harder.
Yep.
So if you identify Vlahovic, the guy that you really want, and you can't get him for whatever reason, I accept they went for him they went all in all month. I get that, and they got blown out at the last minute. But I'd rather they just didn't get anybody and backed, albeit, Eddie Nketiah, we agree, is not very good, rather than spend 60 million on a Calvert-Lewin or someone that we don't really want, but kind of want.
Up in the summer, though.
Well, I agree with that. But I'd rather not do this thing we've done in previous year. We just bring someone in and then we're lumber with them. And a year later, they're on a 3-4 year deal. They're not playing and they're just eating out contract, eating out wages.
Let me throw something in there then. Okay, so let's just say the reality is what I think, and we didn't really go all in for Vlahovic, and that was more smokescreen, bad business. Yeah. Let's say the reality is what you're saying, and we did go in for Vlahovic and we tried really hard. Surely it's bad business to go in for Vlahovic in the first couple of days of January and wait to the last few days of January for his decision. Surely, as a business, the way you're run, and like Sheroy said, Eddie and Laka, we must have been thinking past them already. So if we can't get Oba's replacement in, why can't we get Eddie and Laka's replacement in? I'm not saying you need a top level player for that. In January, I get it's harder, but
I think it's two separate things. I think the lack of replacements for Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah is an issue of the last 18 months. The lack of replacement for Aubameyang is an issue for January. If you know you're losing Aubameyang in January, then you have to go out to try and get the guy.
I don't care which one we're replacing. I couldn't care less whether they're saying this is the Oba replacement, this is the Laka replacement. Who cares, bro? Aubameyang.
But it's important. I'll tell you why, because
and you know that there were 2 strikers leaving. You needed to bring in a goal scorer.
But we're conflating 2 things. We're conflating the lack of backup for 2 players who we knew were going for free come this summer.
We're going to need
with
more than
one guy
that,
that, as you said earlier on, during the season is panned out. We need to move this guy on. So there's 2 slightly separate things going on there.
So but I don't agree, Jordan.
Go on.
Because it's separate, but in January it's one. They've left it for so long over the last 18 months, like you said, that I'm not going to forget about it in January. I'm going to add it to the problem we now have in January, which is Oba on top of that.
Fair.
And I just think, surely there's a list of players that...
Well, they went in for Isaac, didn't they?
Apparently.
Would you have paid 70 million for him?
Well, what came out
I'm not so sure
there,
about.
They actually said, I don't know whether this is actually their position, but they did come out and say he had a release clause, they weren't budging, and we didn't think that was his value. Again, quite frankly, fair enough if that is the case.
Yeah.
I don't really have a problem with that. But going back to Turkish's initial question about not having a plan B and dragging this Vlahovic saga out until you don't really have much time, the Fiorentina owners come out and said, look, Arsenal and another London club were interested, and we put these offers to Vlahovic's team, but they didn't respond. And they went quiet, and it's clear that he had his sights set on Juve. Now, bruv, if you're Arsenal Football Club and you've got a bit of pride about you, you're putting offers to a player and you're not even hearing back from my man's agent. Well, you cut it off. Just say, all right, thank you very much, bruv, enjoy Juve.
Yeah.
Why wait until the end of the window? Yeah. You know, we got to move like we're prestige. Otherwise, players aren't going to think we are. That's the problem I have there.
This summer, don't think Arsenal's going to have an easy run to buy Isaac if you want him or whatever. No. I can name Man United are being for forwards this summer. So they're going to lose one who might be at Her Majesty's, you know.
Yeah.
Cavani and Ronaldo would be gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Man United have been 2 strikers.
Yeah.
Tottenham, if they sell Kane,
don't think Kane will leave, but.
Well, Chelsea at the moment, they've been buying a striker every summer and it's not working.
If they waste 100 million, it don't hurt them.
Yeah. Which is why so much emphasis has to be placed on getting top 4. I'm going to keep coming back to it now. If Tottenham, United, one of those two get the top 4, and you're looking at Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, who are pretty much definitely going to be in there. If we do not get top 4, we do not necessarily break the bank in terms of wages compared to some of these other clubs that pay $500,000 a week. These guys aren't going to be playing Champions League football. And that whole London club thing, it carried us through a fair bit, right? But now Chelsea are a big London club in Europe. You know, West Ham are playing Europa League football. That London club thing isn't necessarily a draw either. Top 4 is massive in terms of the aspirations of the fans, the board, and the owners.
I've got Wenger in the back of my head. Remember that quote he said, "When I'm gone, you'll miss me." About you shouldn't take the 25 years of consecutive Champions League football. Do you remember him saying that? And you take it for granted.
I do. I don't miss Wenger.
I've got him.
I think it started with Arsene Wenger, but that's a whole different.
I know.
I hear
I've got him there.
I remember, be careful what you wish for and all of that. Obviously, you know, in hindsight, it looks like that, but the reality is, Wenger was a big part of what's going on now. People tend to tell me to stop mentioning Wenger and stop mentioning some of the players he bought. But, you know, when one of the players he bought is getting sent off against Man City when we're 1-0 up and we're losing 2-1, it's still relevant in 2022. Yes, you can say Arteta still chose to keep him, Emery still chose to keep him.
Going back to the forward argument, there's 4 games I can think this season. If we had what I call a decent forward on the pitch, we wouldn't have lost. There's Man United away, Everton away, Man City home, in brackets, I know we was conned out of it by the ref, and Burnley home. And I just hope those 4 games don't. I know everyone can say that at the end of the year, but those 4 games can really haunt us.
I'm going to go out
draws.
Yeah. There are points we dropped in draws as well, because we didn't necessarily
we lost to Man United and Everton.
I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say that I reckon.
Don't say Cronkite in.
I ain't going that far in.
Last time on the show.
I'm not going that far in. I don't reckon if we don't get. Doesn't make sense. I reckon if we don't get top 4, it won't be because of our lack of firepower.
What else do you think it'll be?
I don't think it'll be that.
Looking at the trajectory of this team this season, what else do you think it'll be?
Referees.
No. You know me. I'm not one for blaming referees. I'm not one of those Arsenal fans that cries about referees. I think with 16 games left, 15 games left.
17 we got, I think.
Yeah, we got 17. Yeah.
Was it 17?
No, 16.
There's 16 games left.
16.
I think that they are banking on enough goals to come from Martinelli, Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah to score the goals.
Smith Rowe,
Saka.
Smith Rowe doesn't start. Martinelli, Lacazette and Nketiah. How many goals have all 3 of them scored this season?
Not many, but I think you need more firepower if you've got more games. Spurs, West Ham and United all have other competitions to compete in as well. So they need 3-4 players. They need that strength in depth. I think we can limp over the line with the 3 we've got.
We don't have one goal scoring front man. We don't have one. It's not about fixture congestion at this point. Even with the 17 games, I am concerned that we don't have that front man who's going to put the chances away. And don't get me wrong, I love Lacko as a person. You know, I've got a lot of time for him, man, in terms of the way he engages with the fan base, the way he leads by example, the work he does for the team. I'm not sitting there cussing Lacko in that sense. But
he's not a gunman. You can rely on.
You can even look at the last game and the chance he had.
Yeah.
Puts it wide, sends out a tweet, look, I know I should have scored. It's like, bruv, everyone knows you should have scored.
Just score it.
You know, but I don't want to read your tweet. Put it in the back of the net, bro. And if not, we need to bring someone else in.
I got a few quotes as well, which is kind of on the other side of the fence, where I've looked at them in more of a positive light. It's mainly Josh Kroenke, but let me just, from Vinai, to get this club back where it needs to be, we need to make as many right decisions as we possibly can. And I like
obviously.
that because, well, it's obvious, but it's not at Arsenal because they've made so many wrong decisions over the years, you question whether that's the aim, to make wrong decisions. Yeah. And Josh, this is a little bit of a longer one. We have young players who are starting to make some noise at first team level, true. And we have a couple of guys in their mid-20s who we have recruited and they've matured with us for the last few years, true. Starting to lead the leadership charge behind the scenes. So you can see the foundation of the culture that I talked about and think you see it starting to manifest itself on the pitch. Somewhat true. I'm not sure where we are right now. I think 5th or 6th. We should know, but it is what it is. We need to be higher. Our goals are to be higher, but to be there with the youngest squad in the Premier League is something every Arsenal fan should get behind. Now, aside from that last sentence about every Arsenal fan should get behind, I pretty much agree with what he said there, because there has been some decent work done over the last year or so, year or two. Because I look at the playing squad, I look at the 11, and I like about 8, 9 of the players out there. Whereas if you asked me 2 years ago, how many do you like out there, I probably would have said 1 or 2, including the bench. So there is some good work done there. The culture of the squad has changed, in my opinion. But him saying at the end, and I say this last sentence, every Arsenal fan should get behind. I think, again, he's trying to sway our attention away from upstairs to what's coming, because how can you not get behind the young side? How can you not get behind Saka and Emile Smith?
Do you know what the big elephant in the room for all this is? Saka's contract.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you, all that goes out the window if he walks out the door.
Of course it does.
And what can
That's
you do?
the most important contract. Well, be careful what I say there. Smith, I want Smith Rowe, you want a Mortar sign, but Saka, he is the poster boy of Arsenal Football Club.
I actually think I think we could lose Saka if we're not careful. The person I think we could lose is more likely to leave is Martinelli.
Yeah, Klopp's been flirting with my man in public,
Yeah,
isn't
isn't
it?
it?
And I think
Yeah,
City,
yeah, yeah.
if I'm Guardiola, I'm looking at Martinelli.
Right, but what can you do as a football club to limit the prospects of these players wanting to
Make
leave?
them want to stay.
Make them want to stay. How do you make them want to stay? What do you do for someone who is craving leadership and success?
Ambitious.
You show ambition and you bring in. These guys aren't asking for 5 or 6 leaders, because they know if that comes in, they're probably not playing. But they will want one or two people in certain positions to look up to. And if you do that, not only do you enhance your chances of being more successful as a team, you enhance the chances of retaining these players. I know it sounds elementary, but only talking about the youngsters there and saying that it's not where we need to be, there was nothing tangible to say, right, we know it's not where we need to be. We have this young foundation. This is how we're going to up it.
Yeah.
There was absolutely none of that. And that is concerning.
It was like, just enjoy this and let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
get behind them that we know you love because they came from your academy, and that'll take the heat off us. Boom. And we have a couple of poster boys now. You see, that's what's concerning. And it's not what this guy says that does me in. It's what he doesn't say. That's what scares me about him. You know, in fact, I say that, but there was one thing that scared me about him. He said that Arteta was pre-COVID. His exact words were, he was implementing things on the fly. He said that in the interview. He said it's not easy in COVID when you're working on the fly and you get the rug pulled from underneath you. His exact words. And I'm like,
wow.
But the manager of Arsenal Football Club on the fly, and the owner's coming out and saying it. I was a bit like, he just brushed past that, and I was thinking, well, that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think Saka could leave then?
I do.
I do.
Maybe not this summer. I think there's one more contract left in him because of
I
his
think it
love
could
for
be.
Arsenal, but it could be as well. I think we could get the contract over the line because he's grown here and his age says that.
That would,
The
to
next
me,
step-
if he was to go, you know what I mean? That would just. I think he's what they all look up to at higher length.
He's the poster boy.
He's the
You're
one
right.
they aim for.
They'll do what
The
they
only
did with
reason-
Aubameyang there. They'll say, look, you can't lose him because of the uproar that's about to come.
Sure.
This guy can't go. Whatever money we've saved on Oba, give it to Bukayo now. They'll have to, because they know
sounds
what
bad.
what happens.
The
if that
only
guy goes.
reason I think it won't be this season is because the club that I thought would most likely try and sign him have just signed a wide man in the
Liverpool,
window.
yeah.
Liverpool. So I can see him fitting in at Liverpool really well. But now they've signed Diaz.
Diaz, yeah.
Diaz. Less so now. I don't think he fits at City. Where else does Saka go?
It's a difficult one because obviously
You could go abroad. You could go to Madrid. He's that good.
fit at City is one thing, but they bought Grealish on top of Sterling. Whereas you look at their right side and they got Mahrez and Silva does playing off that side sometimes and whatnot. But there is a space. There's always space for quality young players.
I don't
in these
even want to
sides.
think about it, man. I hate the fact that we have to sit
I'm
here
more
and
worried
talk
about
losing
Martinelli.
our star boys like this.
I'm more scared about Martinelli. He's the one I'm more worried about. I think he's the one I think could
Well,
go.
I suppose
this summer.
Arsenal, they've got Patino coming through, haven't they? They've got a few others in the pipeline.
But I don't want to hear about that with all due respect, because to your point, it'll be another. Okay, we've lost another.
Project.
It'll be another project, and I just think
don't
then
wanna
I
lose
will
it,
start
yeah.
getting. Do you know what I mean? So Patino's there. He may come good. We'll see. But you've got some young talent right now, as you said. Just supplement it with some leaders, couple stars to kick this team on. Top 4 this year is massive. It's really big. If I don't get top 4 this year, when do you get top 4? When do you get it?
Top 4 or not, does this summer come in? And I'm not speaking for myself here because I've defined the Cronkite already through what they've done. But to the fans out there, and I'm not sure who over here at the moment. If you're still 50-50 about Kroenke, even if you're still 80-20 against, is this summer the defining summer window to, if you're 80-20 to make it 100, if you're 50-50 to sway over to that side, is this the summer now, Sheroy?
On that, as I said, before last summer, there was absolutely no indication that the Kroenkes had any ambition or had any foresight. I love the recruitment from last summer and the way they've slotted into the team and the passion they show for the badge. And I can only point to one window. What I would need to see to change my opinion on these people, and my opinion can be changed, I'm not sitting here saying I'm never going to like these bros, is sustained ambition, right? So you've done it in one window. You haven't, in my opinion, done it in January, but I understand why you feel as though you might in terms of clearing the decks and setting something up. If you move in the summer, you are showing sustained ambition and you're showing a shift in your stance from what has happened previously. That's why it's crucial. Not just in terms of changing the manner in which the team achieves success, but changing the minds of people like me who need to see that it wasn't a reactionary post-Super League window. And this is a level of ambition
it's a wider
that's
plan
here to stay.
that you've got here.
Consistent spending. Because one window is fantastic. But as you've alluded to historically, all these other clubs have done it window after window after window, and we're playing catch-up. The only way you play catch-up is by being consistent in these windows. So this summer is huge. I cannot overstate it.
I think as well, they didn't buy in this window here, which we're chatting about what we might do in the summer. What they should be doing now is semi-tying up deals for the summer now.
Yeah.
And I want to see scenarios whereby we've got him lined up if we get fourth. If we get fifth, okay, we've got him lined up.
So,
I don't want to get halfway through the summer and then we're bidding for players.
So I didn't put this quote down. Sorry, I'm going to let you continue. I didn't put this quote down, so it's not word for word. But Vinai actually mentioned that in January, there was targets from the summer that they tried to bring forward that didn't materialize, whether it be a loan, whether it be a signing. And he insinuated that there is targets for the summer. That, again, more accountability, along with the top four quote that he said about that's potentially the target. That's the accountability I think we're asking for. Does it fill you with hope that they've pre-planned this one finally?
I'm going to be nice and say yes. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say yes. But if they don't back up those words this summer, I think this is the one where if they don't back up what they did last year, the fan base that aren't feeling them, they'll just go 100%, Kroenke's out. They'll go all in. I want to see a plan whereby they know now who they want for next season.
Yeah.
That's your job. That's your job, to be planning it for the next 2 years ahead.
Yeah.
You didn't get the guy you wanted in January. Cool. Okay. Who's the backup? You got 3, 4, 5 months to get that guy, to get it all tied up. We don't get fourth. Okay. We can't get him anymore. But we've been talking to his people over here. We can get him because he's not elite, but he'll come to a top 5 club in the Premier League. That's what I want to see.
I mentioned it with James. I mean, people like Edu, Vinai, and obviously Arteta's part in
this is your job.
It's their job that only gets put into the headlines for 3 months of every year. The January window and the summer window, which is 3 months. So just get the business done. Chris, I want to ask you finally as well. The same thing I asked Sheroy and Jordan. You started the show, saying you want to believe, and that's how you're going to look at the rest of the season and the summer. If it's another summer where the Kroenkes show themselves as poor owners, a lack of care again, is this the summer now that you just say, we're not doing anything under them?
I'll be so upset. I'll be gutted. I'll be let down. But knowing me, I'll still turn up every week.
Yeah, because
you love it. We love it.
Yeah, I've been doing it all my life. But it doesn't mean I'll sit there and I'll be seething with anger.
Yeah.
But I seriously don't think it'll happen.
Yeah.
I think you'll be in for a pleasant surprise this summer. Be excited.
I hope so. Hey, Chris, don't start that shit.
But you know what? He says that. And I'm not saying I'm excited overall, but look, there are certain players and certain bits of recruitment that have got me excited. I can't sit here and say that when I see Martin Odegaard pressing like an absolute dog, I'm not gassed. When I see Martinelli skinning people up.
Yeah.
When I see Rambo and Ben White just like, yes, have it. I do get gassed. There are elements of this that have got me excited. Go and finish the job.
Yeah.
Go and finish the job.
That is the point. Sorry, John, you want to wrap up, but we've actually got a good team. We don't need a lot. Just 2 or 3. Yeah.
But
we don't need a lot.
Quickly, it is going to be a massive overhaul this summer, because you think of the players we've got on loan, and they're not going to be staying except for Saliba.
Yeah.
So they're going to be. So I think our squad could be down to about 12 players. Just think about it. The players we could lose this summer: Bellerin, Guendouzi, Lacazette, Nketiah, Maitland-Niles. That's 5.
Xhaka maybe
6. The goalie Leno's. That's 7 players.
Nene,
so what does that leave me with? I haven't got the roster. Say 12. So that means your Patinos will be put in, and say we're going to have to buy. Don't think we're buying 1 or 2. I'm looking at 5.
I'm looking at 7, mate.
Depending on what competitions we're in.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're in Champions
massive
League. That'll
summer.
dictate it. That'll dictate. Our league position at the end of the season will dictate really not how they will spend, but how we see.
6 weeks of watching the transfer window on Sky. That's an email over the edge, isn't it? Really? I'm sorry, but I want to go to a desert island and come back.
No Wi-Fi, no TV.
Well, yeah, Chris.
The new team.
Yeah, bang. Not the stress kills
Well,
me.
when we was growing up, it was like, you'd open you'd buy the paper, or you'd open teletext, and then all of a sudden a new sign, and you're like, oh, well, that's good then. Let's see how this one goes,
Well, I'll tell you the highlight was when we signed Gilberto Silva.
Yeah.
I went to work, bang, he was done. Brazilian World Cup captain.
That's how big teams move.
Bang. Bit like a Liverpool move now.
Exactly. That Diaz deal wasn't done last week. That deal there was in the pipeline for 18 months.
It's coming, 100%. Might as well wrap it up now. Chris, lovely to have you on.
Cheers, man.
Yes,
as
sir.
always, Sheroy, beautiful debut. Appreciate
well done.
You coming on 100%, man. You're pretty much like me in our thoughts and whatnot. So
that's scary, but
might need to bring you on some more, man. Might need to bring you on some more.
I can see that Turkish view too in the comments right now.
People, hope you guys have enjoyed the Supporters Club. To be honest, it's not really one to enjoy. It's not a nice conversation to be having about our club and our ownership. We want to be, in better spirits. I want to be like Chris, more hopeful coming to the end of the season. But we will see. Vinai says top 4 is pretty much the target. It is for me. What is the target for you guys? Let us know in the comments. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff. And if you haven't already, Talk is Cheap yesterday. Robbie was a special guest with Laurie, and they discussed Josh Kroenke's interview too.
I just feel that the prize of getting into the Champions League is huge this year and will really impact on the business that we do come the summer.
So for another perspective, more of a devil's advocate, as Robbie likes to say, perspective, go over there and tune in to Talk is Cheap. Love for the love, people. Peace.